అందరికీ నమస్కారం. सबको नमस्कार. Indian foreign policy and diplomacy. Foreign policy as a framework within which the government of a given country conducts its relations with the outside world in different formats, that is bilateral, regional and multilateral or global. Diplomacy on its part is a profession, skill and art of managing countries' relations with the rest of the world with a view to achieving the objectives of country's foreign policy. Broadly, diplomacy can be political, economic or cultural and ideally should work in tandem. India's foreign policy main objectives. Number 1. Secure national interests and ensure inclusive development. The main and first and foremost objective of India's foreign policy is, like that of any other country, is to secure its national interests. The scope of national interests is, in our case, it includes mainly 12 points. Number 1. Securing our borders to protect territorial integrity. Number 2. Countering cross-border terrorism. Number 3. Energy security. Number 4. Food security. Number 5. Cyber security. Number 6. Creation of world-class infrastructure. Number 7. Non-discriminatory global trade practices. Number 8. Equitable global responsibility for the protection of environment. Number 9. Reform of institutions of global governance to reflect the contemporary realities. Number 10. Disarmament. Number 11. Regional stability. Number 12. International peace and so on. Next, in order to sustain its growth trajectory, India needs substantial external inputs. To succeed, our ongoing programs such as Make in India, Skills India, Smart Cities, Infrastructure Development, Digital India, Clean India, etc. need foreign partners, foreign direct investments, financial assistance, transfer of technology. Next, India has a 20 million strong diaspora comprised of non-resident Indians and persons of Indian origin spread all over the world. One of the major objectives is to engage them and derive maximum benefits from their presence abroad, while at the same time protecting their interests to the extent possible. In short, our foreign policy has at least 4 important goals. These are: number 1. To protect India from traditional and non-traditional threats. Number 2. To create an external environment which is conducive for an inclusive development of India so that the benefits of growth can reach the poorest of the poor in the country. Number 3. To ensure that India's voice is heard on global forums and that India is able to influence world opinion on issues of global dimensions such as terrorism, climate change, disarmament, reforms of institutions of global governance. And number 4. To engage and protect Indian diaspora. Number 2. Dynamic world, proactive and pragmatic approach. We are living in a dynamic world. India's foreign policy is therefore geared up to be proactive, flexible as well as pragmatic, so as to make quick adjustments to respond to evolving situations. Number 3. Foreign policy, fundamental principles and features. These fundamental principles includes 8 aspects. Those are: number 1. Panchashil. Panchashil are 5 virtues which were first formally enunciated in the agreement on trade between the Tibet region of China and India, signed on April 29, 1954, and later evolved to act as the basis of conduct of international relations globally. These 5 principles are: number 1. Mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Number 2. Mutual non-aggression. Number 3. Mutual non-interference. Number 4. Equality and mutual benefit. Number 5. Peaceful coexistence. Number 2. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family. Related to this is the concept of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. In other words, the entire world community is a part of one single large global family and the members of the family must live together in peace and harmony. work and grow together and have trust in each other for mutual benefits. Number 3. India is opposed to export of ideologies and change of regimes. India believes in and supports democracy. However, India does not believe in the export of ideologies. India has therefore endeavored to deal with the government of the day, be it a democracy, monarchy, or military dictatorship. India believes that it is best left to the people of the country to choose or remove their leaders and retain or change the form of governance. By extension of the above principle, India does not endorse the idea of regime change or violation of territorial integrity in a particular country by use of force or other means by another country or a group of countries. Example, US interventions in Iraq, Libya, Syria, or Russia's intervention in Georgia, Ukraine, etc. At the same time, India does not hesitate in promoting democracy wherever potential exists. This is done by proactively providing assistance in capacity building and strengthening the institutions of democracy, albeit with the explicit consent of the concerned government. Example, Afghanistan. Number 4. India does not endorse unilateral sanctions or military actions. India does not endorse the idea of imposing sanctions or military action against any individual country by another country or a group of countries unless these sanctions or military actions have been approved by the United Nations as a result of international consensus. India therefore contributes only to such peacekeeping military operations which are part of the UN peacekeeping forces. India has contributed nearly 1,95,000 troops, the largest number from any country, participated in more than 49 missions, and 168 Indian peacekeepers have made the supreme sacrifice while serving in UN missions. India has also provided and continues to provide eminent force commanders for UN missions. Interference? No. Intervention? Yes. India does not believe in interference in the internal affairs of other countries. However, if an act, innocent or deliberate, by any country has the potential of impinging upon India's national interests, India does not hesitate in a quick and timely intervention. Mind it, intervention is qualitatively different from interference, particularly when the intervention is made at the request of the country concerned. Examples: Bangladesh in 1971, IPKF in Sri Lanka between 1987 to 1990, Maldives 1988. Number 6. Constructive engagement over aggression. India advocates the policy of constructive engagement over aggression. It believes that violent retaliation and confrontation can only complicate the matters. War is no solution. After every war, conflicting parties ultimately come to negotiating table, by which time much damage has already been done. This applies in particular to Pakistan, the origin of state-sponsored terrorism targeted at India. The policy of engagement is not allowed, however, to be misunderstood as India's weakness. Strong and loud messages emanate from India each and every time our patience is tested. The surgical strike to target terrorist launch pads in Pakistan occupied Indian territory in September 2016 is one such example. Airstrike at terrorist camps in Balakot in February 2019 in retaliation to Pulwama terrorist attack is yet another example. Number 7. Strategic autonomy. Partnerships? Yes. Alliances? No. Independence of decision making and strategic autonomy are yet another significant features of India's foreign policy. India thus believes in partnerships and shuns alliances, particularly military alliances. Number 8. Global consensus on issues of global dimensions. India advocates a global debate and global consensus on issues of global dimensions, such as world trade regime, climate change, terrorism, intellectual property rights, global governance. These all are India's foreign policy main objectives. About Indian Foreign Service. The Indian Foreign Service IFS is a diplomatic service and a central civil service of the Government of India under the Ministry of External Affairs. The Foreign Secretary is the head of the service. Vikram Misri is the 35th and the current Foreign Secretary. Indian Foreign Service includes 5 aspects. Number 1, training. Number 2, career. Number 3, mission and vision. Number 4, the functions of an Indian diplomat. Number 5, strength. Number 1, training. On selection to the Indian Foreign Service through the combined civil services examination, the new entrants undergo a multi-faceted and comprehensive training program intended to give them a thorough grounding in diplomatic knowledge, diplomatic qualities and diplomatic skills. The probationers commence their training together with their colleagues from the other All India services at the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, Mussoorie. Thereafter, the probationers join the Foreign Service Institute in New Delhi and undergo focused training in the various disciplines that a career diplomat needs to familiarize himself with. The Foreign Service Institute course involves lectures, attachments with various wings of the government as well as familiarization tours both within the country and abroad. The aim of this course is to inculcate in the diplomatic recruit a strong sense of history, knowledge of diplomacy and international relations, and a grasp of general economic and political principles. At the conclusion of the training program, the officer is assigned his/her compulsory foreign language CFL. After a brief period of desk attachment in the Ministry of External Affairs, the officer is posted to an Indian mission abroad in a country where his CFL is the native language and enrolled in a language course. The officer is expected to develop proficiency in his CFL and pass the requisite examination before he is confirmed in service. In 1948, the first batch recruited under the combined civil service examination system of the Union Public Service Commission joined the service. This system of entry has remained the staple mode of intake into the IFS to this day. Number 2, career. A foreign service officer begins his career abroad as a third secretary and is promoted to second secretary as soon as he is confirmed in service. Subsequent promotions are to the levels of first secretary, councillor, minister and ambassador, or high commissioner, or permanent representative. Officers can also be posted to Indian consulates abroad where the hierarchy going upwards is vice consulate, consulate and consulate general. The hierarchy at the Ministry of External Affairs includes 6 stages. Number 1, Under Secretary. Number 2, Deputy Secretary. Number 3, Director. Number 4, Joint Secretary. Number 5, Additional Secretary. And number 6, Secretary. Number 3, Mission and Vision. As a career diplomat, the Foreign Service Officer is required to project India's interests both at home and abroad on a wide variety of issues. These include bilateral political and economic cooperation, trade and investment promotion, cultural interaction, press and media liaison, as well as a whole host of multilateral issues. Number 4, the functions of an Indian diplomat may be summarized as representing India in its embassies, high commissions, consulates, permanent missions to multilateral organizations like UN, protecting India's national interests in the country of his/her posting, promoting friendly relations with the receiving state as also its people including NRI or PIOs, reporting accurately on developments in the country of posting which are likely to influence the formulation of India's policies, negotiating agreements on various issues with the authorities of the receiving state, extending consular facilities to foreigners and Indian nationals abroad. At home, Ministry of External Affairs is responsible for all aspects of external relations. Territorial divisions deal with bilateral political and economic work, while functional divisions look after policy planning, multilateral organizations, regional groupings, legal matters, disarmament, protocol, consular, Indian diaspora, press and publicity, administration and other aspects. Number 5. Strength. In recent years, the intake into the Indian Foreign Service has averaged between 30 to 35% annually. The present cadre strength of the service stands at approximately 850 officers, manning around 193 Indian missions and posts abroad and the various posts in the ministry at home. About our present Foreign Minister, Shri Subramanyam Jaishankar. Shri Subramanyam Jaishankar did his bachelor's degree in chemistry from St. Stephen's College, Delhi. He has an MA in political science and an MPhil and PhD in international relations from Jawaharlal Nehru University, where he specialized in nuclear diplomacy. After joining the Indian Foreign Service in 1977, Jaishankar served as a third secretary and second secretary in the Indian mission to the Soviet Union in Moscow from 1979 to 1981, where he studied Russian. He returned to New Delhi, where he worked as a special assistant to the diplomat Gopalaswamy Parthasarathi and as under secretary in the Americas division of India's Ministry of External Affairs dealing with the United States. He was part of the team that resolved the dispute over the supply of US nuclear fuel to the Tarapur power stations in India. From 1985 to 1988, he was the first secretary at the Indian Embassy in Washington, D.C. From 1988 to 1990, he served in Sri Lanka as first secretary and political advisor to the Indian Peacekeeping Force (IPKF). From 1990 to 1993, he was a consular commercial at the Indian Mission in Budapest. Returning to New Delhi, he served as a director East Europe in the Ministry of External Affairs and as press secretary and speech writer for President of India Shankar Dayal Sharma. Jaishankar was then deputy chief of mission at the Indian Embassy in Tokyo from 1996 to 2000. This period saw a downturn in Indo-Japan relations following India's Pokhran 2 nuclear tests, as well as a recovery after a visit to India by then Japanese Prime Minister Yoshiro Mori. Jaishankar is reported to have helped introduce future Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to his Indian counterpart Manmohan Singh. In 2000, he was appointed India's ambassador to the Czech Republic. From 2004 to 2007, Shri Jaishankar was Joint Secretary Americas at the Ministry of External Affairs in New Delhi. In this capacity, he was involved in negotiating the US-India civil nuclear agreement and improving defense cooperation, including during relief operations following the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Shri Jaishankar was also involved with the conclusion of the 2005 New Defense Framework and the Open Skies Agreement, and he was associated with the launch of the US-India Energy Dialogue, the India-US Economic Dialogue and the India-US CEOs Forum. In 2006-2007, Shri Jaishankar led the Indian team during the negotiations on the 123 agreement with the United States. He also represented the Indian government at the Carnegie Endowment International Non-Proliferation Conference in June 2007. High Commissioner to Singapore from 2007 to 2009, Sri Jaishankar served as India's High Commissioner to Singapore. During his tenure, he helped implement the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement that expanded the Indian business presence in Singapore and oversaw a defense arrangement by which Singapore keeps some of its military equipment in India on a permanent basis. Sri Jaishankar also promoted the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas and Impact in Singapore. Ambassador to China. Sri Jaishankar was India's longest serving ambassador to China with a 4.5-year term. In Beijing, Sri Jaishankar was involved in improving economic, trade and cultural relations between China and India and in managing the Sino-Indian border dispute. Sri Jaishankar's tenure as India's ambassador to China coincided with several major developments in relations between the two countries. His 2010 briefing to the Indian Cabinet Committee on Security regarding China's refusal to issue a visa to the head of the Indian Army's Northern Commander led to a suspension of Indian defense cooperation with China before the situation was resolved in April 2011. Also in 2010, Sri Jaishankar negotiated an end to the Chinese policy of issuing stapled visas to Indians from Jammu and Kashmir. In 2012, in response to Chinese passports showing Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin as parts of China, he ordered visas issued to Chinese nationals showing those territories as parts of India. And in May 2013, he negotiated the end of a standoff resulting from the encampment by China's People's Liberation Army on Ladakh's Despong Plains, threatening to cancel Premier Lai Keqiang's scheduled visit to India if Chinese forces did not withdraw. Sri Jaishankar also briefed the media after the conclusion of Lee's visit to New Delhi in May 2013. Sri Jaishankar advocated deeper in Indian cooperation with China as long as India's core interests were respected and argued for better market access for Indian businesses operating in China on the grounds that more balanced trade was necessary for the bilateral economic relationship to be sustainable. He was also involved in improving people-to-people contacts between India and China, promoting events that showcased Indian culture in 30 Chinese cities. Ambassador to United States, Sri Jaishankar was appointed as India's ambassador to United States in September 2013. Sri Jaishankar took charge on 23rd December 2013, succeeding Nirupama Rao. He arrived in United States amid the Devyani Khobragade incident and was involved in negotiating the Indian diplomats' departure from United States. On 29th January 2014, Sri Jaishankar addressed the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, where he argued that the grand strategy underwriting Indian-American ties is fundamentally sound, but that ties suffered from a problem of sentiment. On 10th March 2014, he formally presented his credentials to US President Barack Obama at the Oval Office. Sri Jaishankar was involved in planning of the Indian Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi's maiden visit to United States in September 2014, welcoming him upon his arrival and hosting a dinner in his honor for members of the Indian American community. Foreign Secretary 2015 to 2018. Sri Jaishankar was appointed as Foreign Secretary of India on 29th January 2015. The announcement of his appointment was made following a 28th January 2015 meeting of the Appointments Committee of the Cabinet chaired by the Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. Shri Jaishankar is credited with building the much talked about aggressive foreign policy of the Modi government. His tenure extension of 1 year saw a transformation in the working of the Ministry of External Affairs. Shri Jaishankar is widely criticized by Nepalese analysts for being the original planner of 2015 Nepal blockade. His tenure expired in January 2018. Minister of External Affairs since 2019 to present. On 31st May 2019, Shri Jaishankar was appointed to the office of Minister of External Affairs in second Modi ministry. Shri Jaishankar was sworn in as Cabinet Minister on 30th May 2019. On 5th July 2019, he was elected as the Member of Parliament from Bharatiya Janata Party to the Rajya Sabha from Gujarat. He succeeded Shri Sushma Swaraj, who was the External Affairs Minister in Narendra Modi's first government. In October 2020, Shri Jaishankar and the Indian Minister of Defence Shri Rajnath Singh met with US Secretary of State Mr. Mike Pompeo and US Secretary of Defence Mr. Mark T. Esper to sign Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement on Geospatial Cooperation, which facilitates the sharing of sensitive information and intelligence, including access to highly accurate nautical, aeronautical, topographical and geospatial data between United States and India. The agreement had been under discussion for over a decade, but previous concerns over information security impelled the United Progressive Alliance UPA coalition government to block it. In response to the dialogue, Chinese spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Mr. Wang Wenbin criticized the move and advised Mr. Pompeo to abandon his Cold War mentality, zero-sum mindset and stop harping on the China threat. In November 2022, during a joint press conference along with the Russian Foreign Minister Mr. Sergei Lavrov, Shri Jaishankar praised Russia as an exceptionally steady and time-tested partner of India and advocated a return to dialogue and peace between Russia and Ukraine. In June 2023, the Associated Press AP reported that Shri Jaishankar had announced that India will remain committed in its stance on not inviting Ukraine to the 2023 G20 summit that is to be held in New Delhi, India. Shri Jaishankar firmly defended buying oil from Russia even after the sanction by Western countries during the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine and criticized Europe for double standards. During GlobeSec 2022 forum in Slovakia, responding to a question on India's official position on Russia's invasion of Ukraine, he said that Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems. German Chancellor Mr. Olaf Scholz echoed Shri Jaishankar's views on Europe and said he has a point. Shri Jaishankar responded to Austria's national broadcaster ORF, what Europe is doing is also moving into the Middle East and diverting production out of the Middle East and raising prices. European actions are putting pressure on the global oil markets. During his visit to Germany for the Munich Security Conference, he emphasized that Europe must recognize that India cannot adopt the same perspective on Russia as Europe does. In January 2023, Shri Jaishankar called Pakistan the epicenter of terrorism in an interview with Austrian broadcaster ORF. He added, I can use much harsher words than epicenter for Pakistan for its role in promoting cross-border terrorism, as he underlined that the world needs to be concerned about terrorism. Later in August 2024, he stated, "The era of uninterrupted dialogue with Pakistan is over. What I do want to say is that we are not passive. And whether events take a positive or negative direction, either way, we will react." In February 2023, American investor and philanthropist Mr. George Soros criticized Indian Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi for his alleged Islamophobia, cronyism, and authoritarianism. Shri Jaishankar dismissed his criticism and said that Soros is a old dangerous person. He condemned the Hamas-led attack on Israel on 7th October 2023 as a terrorist act, but also talked about the plight of the Palestinian people, suggesting a two-state solution through dialogue and negotiation. Shri Jaishankar said that we have always supported a negotiated two-state solution towards the establishment of a sovereign, independent and viable state of Palestine within secure and recognized borders, living side by side in peace with Israel. In October 2024, responding on the relationship with China, Shri Jaishankar said at Carnegie Endowment for International Peace in Washington, the overall relationship with China had not been great over the last few years because China had reneged on certain agreements it had with India about how to keep the border between the two countries tranquil. In September 2024, on trade with China, he said at the Gulf Cooperation Council joint ministerial meeting in Riyadh, "We are not closer to business from China. There is nobody who can say, I will not do business with China. I think the issue is which sectors do you do business in and on what terms you do business. It is far more complicated than a black and a white binary answer." On 12th September 2024, Shri Jaishankar interacted with Ambassador Mr. Jean-David Levitt at Geneva Center for Security Policy. During the interaction, Ambassador Mr. Levitt referred to Shri Jaishankar as a star in the world. These are all the details about our present Foreign Minister Shri Subramanyam Jaishankar. These all details about our Indian foreign policy, Indian foreign service and Indian foreign minister. अंदरिकी धन्यवादालु. सबको धन्यवाद. If content is good, click on subscribe, click on bell symbol, click on all notifications. Thanks for your support. Jai Hind.